Welcome to my view from the MAC. This past weekend I was in Alexandria, Virginia to attend the 93rd annual dinner of the officers of the 1st Division. As always, the event brings together combat veteran officers of the division for a weekend of festivities and reminiscing about combat tours in the past. The artillery has a Friday night dinner to celebrate our past. It is a tradition as old as the Saturday night formal dinner. I attended my first at Le Bistro restaurant in New York City in 1968, not far from the Waldorf Astoria where the Saturday dinner was held. I was introduced to Harold Saylor and Warren Ransom, among others, both World War I veterans of the 1st Field Artillery Brigade and 5th and 6th Field Artillery Regiments. It was a special time hearing these stories of World War I. I was fortunate to have met these great soldiers and leaders of our division. While our artillery dinner this year was not very large, it was nonetheless a piece of our division's artillery history. This year, the artillerymen joined by Brigadier General Don McWillie, who is now a part of our Friday night tradition. The unit command posts in the World War I area, called PCs, which probably was for Poste de Command from the French, were alive Friday with veterans willing to swap tales, embellished by the passing years, and pass on tales to the young who had joined our ranks. Each of the regiments or groups had their own place to swap tales. On Saturday night we had our formal dinner, steeped in the traditions of the past. Regimental marches gave the participants an opportunity to parade around the dining room, twirling their napkins above their heads, carrying on a tradition that goes back many years, long before my first dinner in 1968. Brigadier General Don McWillie gave a report on the status of the division, including showing a video that highlighted some of the current activities going on in the division. He introduced those leaders of the current division who had contributed to the history we all cherish. He talked about soldiers who were patients recovering from wounds at Walter Reed National Medical Center and their contribution to the history of the Big Red One. Each was a special story. Music was provided by the 29th Infantry Division Band from the Army National Guard in Virginia. There was only one World War II veteran in attendance, a reminder that there are few of those veterans remaining. The dinner concluded with the singing of the division song before we all returned to our regimental command post, joined by spouses to resume swapping stories embellished over time. This dinner is an important part of the tradition of the Big Red One. 93 years of doing just this very thing. Since the dinner is restricted to men and women who served as officers in the division in combat, there is a concurrent dinner for spouses that allows them to be a part of the evening activities. Although the dinner originated in New York after World War I, it moved to the D.C. area as a number of the World War I veterans diminished, and there was a large gathering of the Vietnam veterans in the D.C. area. There are many of us who hope that the dinner will find a new home closer to the division, perhaps in Kansas City, where it's affordable for the younger veterans to be a part of this important part of our history. No division in our Army has anything that compares to this celebration. I'm glad I was again able to be a part of the Big Red One history at this event. This morning at 10 o'clock, the 2nd Battalion 34th Army will hold a change of command ceremony on Cavalry Parade. The ceremony is open to the public. This is another opportunity for you to observe another military tradition ceremony. At 10:30, there'll be a Fort Riley network meeting at the rally point. This gathering will highlight the activities going on at Fort Riley for soldiers and their families. I hope to discuss some of the sundown salute activities and the mud bog at this gathering. That wraps it up pretty much for this week. Next week we'll be talking about change command ceremonies and probably the mud bog. Have a great week.